Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Gabby Panetta, and this is the Soul Talk podcast. I have the pleasure of introducing today Rorey Moon, who is a crystal entrepreneur and expert. Hi, Rorey. Welcome to the show. Thank you.
Hi, Gabby. Happy to
Hi.
be here.
It's so exciting to have you. It's not our first conversation, but I love speaking with you because you're so knowledgeable about crystals and just such a badass in your business anyway, that I wanted to have this conversation on a from a different perspective. I think the first one we had was a little bit basic, and this one is just taking it a little bit further. So without even wasting any time, I'm just going to get into the questions if you don't mind.
Let's do it.
So, are there any contraindications with crystals? For example, this is basic 101. If you do not want spirits to bug you at night, do not keep selenite beside your bed.
But if you do, then do it.
Yeah, then get a great big stone like this and keep it beside your bed.
Celestite is similar in that way as well for me, because celestite is a blue stone for communication, and for me it's communication with the other side. So not just communication in your day-to-day. So if you don't want to be communicating with the other side while you're sleeping, do not put celestite beside your bed. Yeah. Alternatively, if you do have celestite near your bed and you sleep like a baby and nobody's coming to bother you, you don't have to move the celestite just because I said don't put it there. Right. Yes, everything gets a caveat, which is funny. So one of the crystals that broke the internet in recent years was moldavite, and moldavite was all over the TikTok, and it blew up in price. First of all, it was already expensive, and then the price increased even further because of demand, and then the mine was basically drained. So we had a sustainability issue because there was just so much demand, and then the quality started getting lower and lower, and then we basically found out that the mine was no more, in Czech Republic anyways.
Right.
Which was like the big mine. And so what kind of not triggered people, but excited people about moldavite was, I don't know why, but videos of people crying saying, oh my God, I just bought moldavite, and like, my whole life changed. My boyfriend broke up with me. I got fired from my job. I lost my house, and now I don't know what to do. Like, so dramatic. But what
drama?
so much drama. And I remember seeing all this, and I had bought a moldavite pre-TikTok craze, a moldavite ring that I had bought. And even the person who sold it to me said, I was like, I'm really drawn to this. Like, I'm going to get it. And then he was like, just like, don't wear it too much because you might get headaches. It's a very strong, powerful stone. So like, don't wear it too much. I know my tolerance with crystals. I had no issue wearing that ring all day for multiple days in a row. But that is me and my experience. There are other people who found the energy to be quite strong and overwhelming to the point where they couldn't even own it. Our dear friend Gabby.
An empath. Yeah, it wasn't that I stopped wearing it altogether, but it took me a while to sort of embrace it because and I mean I can feel that with trees. So, like the first time I connected with the trees, I almost threw up. So I had to calibrate my connection with a tree until it was just a really nice flow of energy. And so it was very similar with moldavite. And I'm someone that if somebody tells me, oh, this is going to make you do that, I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'll just see. But it was not as extreme as they describe it, but I felt a difference, and I thought, okay, I think I better just do a little bit at a time. And now I don't have a problem at all wearing moldavite, but I would definitely not recommend it for a newbie. Just because
they wouldn't know what was happening, right? You had the awareness to recalibrate and take it a little bit at a time. I was just gutless. I was like, I'm just gonna wear it and see how long I can last, and whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
It's all good. But you know what else is really interesting is that the people who use moldavite and maybe had these massive life changes, the way that I interpret this is they had some hard lessons that they weren't learning on their own. So they brought in an outside force, and this crystal taught them the hard lesson for them. So maybe they were misaligned on their path, or they were, not making the change in their life that the universe so desperately needed them to do. And then
Yeah,
they found moldavite.
exactly. And that this is the thing, that they would have gone through those experiences anyway, but because moldavite is an amplifier, big time amplifier, it just brought it into their field a lot faster than it would have otherwise. But they were meant to go through those anyway. It's not like moldavite caused it at all.
No, no, they were drawn to moldavite via the TikTok for a reason.
Right. And they and part of their guides were going, oh yeah, you need this. You haven't been paying attention. Go.
The guides got some popcorn, like, this is going to be fun.
Oh yeah, baby. I love it.
There is a softer crystal called Libyan desert glass,
Right.
which is a yellow stone, whereas moldavite's green. So green is also resonating with your heart chakra. So that's why there was a lot of emotions going on with people going through these transitions. Libyan desert glass is like a soft yellow, so closer to your space of creativity and your solar plexus. And it's more grounding. It's still very amplified as a stone, and they're little tiny chunks, similar as moldavite was. And it's just a gentler transition and more of a nurturing transition than a hard lesson like moldavite is.
But the other one was
so
popcorn worthy.
Yeah. Then they feel bad and they're like, maybe you should try Libyan desert glass, and the guides recalibrate.
Yeah. And would you say that tektite is kind of in between the two?
Yeah. So tektite, I guess I didn't even say this. Moldavite, Libyan desert glass, and tektite, they're all created from meteor activity. So if you are in touch with some past lives or, alternative beings from the sky, those are a lot of people who are drawn to these crystals as well. Tektite, for whatever reason, again, I have to attribute it to the color, because most tektites are like a blacky brown. So that's even lower in the chakras. Like that could be a protection or a grounding stone. I just feel like they're way lower on the insane scale.
Great. Okay. Awesome. And yeah, I felt that the same thing with tektite. I just found it very grounding, and I thought, I don't know what they're talking about. This is a freaking grounding stone.
Yeah.
So awesome. Good. Whew, glad we share that. Can you give me some examples that people could use for emotional balancing?
Yes, I have my list. One moment. So for emotional balancing, I'd recommend a green moonstone. I'm not sure if you have seen it before. It is quite delicious. And it is a great stone, again, for the green, for the heart chakra. I do a lot of color associations when I'm looking into how to work with a crystal. And this is one of the most powerful emotional balancing stones I have ever experience for myself and for other people. Like I have sold them to people and they're like, where did this crystal come from? I was like, it's yours now, have fun. And they've had really, really great experiences with that. Yeah. And please, Gabby, if you have another crystal for these as we go through that you have heard or experienced, I think we can.
I'm keeping it juicy for like the boom effect towards the end, because this was it was recommended to me by a colleague, and I'm so grateful to her, because it's literally changed my life. So
is it the one that we just spoke about, or do you have something new and exciting?
It's one that we have spoken about.
Oh.
Talked about its magical properties in this regard, but that's the juicy. That's the big deal.
A lot of cliffhangers in this episode.
Okay, so for hormonal balancing,
when we're talking about hormonal balancing, I really look at the divine feminine. So anything that's going to support that kind of aspect of your life, my go-to is moonstone. Your divine feminine is powered by the moon. Moonstone is powered by the moon. We really just want to tap into that and help recenter. So yeah, moonstone all day long.
Okay. If you have difficulty with anger, which stone? So either, because there's people who are really afraid of expressing anger and getting in touch with
Hmm.
it, they don't realize it's actually healthy to go into anger. It's just not healthy to repress it, deny
Okay.
it, or be explosive about it. So when we want to regulate anger, I guess.
Yeah. So I think if you're trying to regulate it in the sense that you are very in touch with it and it's kind of taking over yourself, howlite. It's a beautiful white stone.
Yeah.
Even having a couple tumbled howlites in your pocket for those moments, those fits of rage, very, very helpful. And I like to recommend to have like more than one if you're going to do the tumbles because they sound really nice. And that is also in itself kind of like some ASMR of just like hearing them kind of, jingle against one another. So, yeah. Do you want me to give you a recommendation for experiencing anger? Like if you're kind of afraid of it and not
Yeah. If
not accessing it? Okay.
going into anger instead of repressing it, then yeah.
Okay. This is going to be a complicated answer. So, if you're repressing anger because you can't access it, you can tap into your inner fire and passion in your solar plexus and use something like a carnelian or a bright red, vibrant stone. If you don't have a lot of fiery energy or a lot of fire in your chart or having trouble with that, that's a really great crystal to kind of bring that up to the surface in a very gentle and healthy way. It's not like a fire starter. It's supporting that area of your system that's going to like kind of give you that confidence.
Yeah.
The other one kind of leaning off of the confidence piece, it's using your voice.
Mhm.
So I would actually recommend a blue stone. So something like a sodalite, that is a phenomenal stone for communication. And that can be, again, depending on what the hesitation is, because you kind of need to like diagnose yourself a little bit. Like, why am I hesitating? Is it because I don't know how to access it? Is it because I'm afraid to say it? Is it like, because I don't like speaking my mind? I don't like conflict. Like, where is that kind of sitting? So if it's more around like, I don't have the words, or I don't know how to express it. I don't know how to like put the thoughts together and just really get it out. Then I would lean on a sodalite for that.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really insightful actually, because a lot of people do have a fear of expressing anger out of fear of being judged or conflict. They're so afraid of conflict.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I want to develop my intuition and or connect with other realms, the higher self, what's the go-to?
There's so many. Honestly, any crystal at this point, because you're tapping into an energy of this like amazing thing. But if I had to like just choose a couple, labradorite has been a huge opener for my intuitive abilities. It's a great stone for transformation and transition. So if you're kind of like awakening, that's a really great stone to like support you through it. Amethyst will activate your third eye and your psychic abilities as well. Celestite, if you are trying to develop your your connection with the spirit realm. Moonstone is for intuition as well. Like clear, like anything that's like white or like sparkly, like those aura crystals, which some people love, some people don't. Those that have those beautiful rainbows, like treatment on them. There's so many. Just grab one and you'll experience something.
Yeah, and you feel them. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so grounding. If I want to feel grounded, if I don't want to feel like I'm in the middle of a storm, an emotional storm, how do I ground with a crystal?
So I want this to be considered along with an intuition stone because you can't access what's up here without being connected to where you are. That's how you become a loopy psychic, and nobody wants to be a loopy psychic. You want to be a grounded psychic. So the crystal that I use for that is smoky quartz. And the reason I use smoky quartz is because it's still in the quartz family, so it's very amplified. I like my crystals with a little bit of kick to them. So with the smoky quartz, I'm not feeling like it's muting anything. I feel like it's keeping me connected, but still keeping my vibrations high as well. So I like to use those together. I actually carry along with my quartz pointy wand. I have a smoky quartz as well that comes with me.
Nice.
But
Okay.
that one stays hidden.
Okay. That's the secret weapons in the
The
back.
secret one, yeah.
Like if anybody ever searches your bag, you're like, what are all these crystals? You'd be surprised.
Oh my God, going through airport security, impossible.
You know. All right. If I wanted to use a crystal, a master crystal or a go-to crystal for protection purposes, if I want to protect my energy from other people's junk, how do I do that?
My go-to is black obsidian. I go a little bit more for the protection of negative energy. There is another way to protect, and that is attracting light and a light, like kind of like a protection ball of light, if you will. And then I would go for a clear crystal. So usually a clear quartz. Those are like my two protection crystals, depending on how you want to protect yourself.
Right. Interesting. So for my pets, I used a clear quartz, and for myself, I used a black tourmaline, which is awesome. So,
Oh, black tourmaline's fantastic too.
yeah.
I love it.
Okay.
Oh,
And if I wanted to cleanse my energy and or other crystals, which one would you recommend?
I kind of gave this one away earlier, but selenite is quite popular for that. There's a lot of selenite bowls, and even people market them as charging dishes
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of thing. Selenite's also really cool because it's soft, so you could like do like engravings in it. Or they can be purchased with like engravings in them as well if you wanted to work with some sacred geometry or something like that as well.
Right. That's the other thing that I automatically thought of when you talked about the crystals and forming crystallizations. It's all sacred.
Mm-hmm.
They all form things, and it's very geometrical, and it's all, of course, by the sacred wisdom of Mother Earth, but they form sacred geometrical patterns without
Exactly.
trying to. Um, okay. And then just an overall healing crystal, a master crystal that works for healing purposes.
Well, I think I also gave this one away, but I keep saying clear quartz for everything because it is the master healer. I refer to it as like using salt when you're cooking, where salt just kind of goes with everything. So
Right.
clear quartz can be used for anything to amplify any intention, to clear anything, to protect you. It's just like when in doubt, clear crystal. I know it looks boring. I used to be very opposed to clear quartz. I was like, oh, but it's so boring. And now I'm like, just kidding. It's very complex. There's a lot going on in there.
I love it so much. Okay, and I think you touched on this before, but for communication purposes, which crystal would you recommend for communication?
Yeah, sodalite, or anything blue, really, but I do love sodalite.
Mhm.
Um, Amazonite if you want something different, because it's kind of like a kick-ass, like find your voice and your fierceness.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good one too.
And if I wanted to be more self-confident.
So that is kind of tying back to what we're speaking about with anger. Carnelian is a great one that I like to use for that purpose, because self-confidence is kind of coming from that, guttural, like instinctual kind of living, kind of space. And also, if you want to go a little bit lower, a grounding crystal. So whether that is like your smoky quartz or something a little bit more earthy, like a jasper, because that is supporting your space of security. So your grounding is all your basic needs, right? Safety, security, like, am I stable? So that can also be where your self-confidence is wavering. So just do a little bit of soul searching on like where the self-confidence or the lack of self-confidence is coming from, and then address that. Is it because you've been hurt in relationships and now you don't feel confident going out there? Then we need to address some of the emotional damage that might be on your heart chakra. Is it because you never feel stable? You never feel like you're successful enough? You never feel like you have enough? Like, there's layers to where lack of self-confidence can be coming from.
Great. Interesting. Okay, well that's good to know too. Because sometimes people don't realize that there are layers to the lack of self-confidence. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of, and you kind of touched on this at the beginning, but if I have a lot of friends that are gardeners. If I wanted to help my garden grow better, stronger, healthier, what would you recommend to put in the garden?
Okay, it's going to seem like a really obvious answer, but there's a stone called moss agate. There's also a stone called tree agate. I wonder why they have those names.
I know. Okay.
They're phenomenal. They look like little plants, so they look really cute in your garden too. So that's always a plus.
Yeah.
And any jasper as well. There's all different kinds of jaspers around the world. So those are really great just for keeping things growing.
Beautiful. Okay.
Mm.
If I wanted to charge my water and make it a healing elixir, what would I use?
Look it up before you put it in water. Right now, I would say the safest ones are anything in the quartz family. So that is your amethyst, your clear quartz, your citrine, and your rose quartz.
Okay.
The reason I say look up the properties is because similarly, here we were talking about crystals that disintegrate in water. There are also crystals that will become poisonous. Pyrite is one of those. Do not charge your water with pyrite. This is my
Okay.
second do not of the episode. It's a
Okay.
big no no.
Um,
Um, there is also an option. Some of the like if you're talking about charging, like you have those water bottles, some of them got smart and didn't put them in like the fruit infuser section, but put them on a separate container on the bottom. At which point I would say any crystal is fine because it's not actually touching the water.
right. Okay. So
Yeah.
what is your view on shungite for water, and would you recommend putting it in the water or not? Mike, I think what you just said, that putting it in a separate container is just safest because we also
Yeah,
be careful as to where they come from.
exactly. Yeah, I would say my conservative answer is just don't put anything in your water if you don't know what you're doing. If again, we're talking to somebody who has never done anything with crystals before, shungite has been used as a water purifier. So there are people who are very knowledgeable about how to use shungite in the water.
Right.
I even believe there's a special water bottle that was created for using shungite, and they make these special, like almost like charcoal cleansing your water,
Right.
but with shungite. So there are specialists or people who are experts in this. I am not a shungite expert. I always take the less deadly route of just not putting anything in my water.
Just, I think I'm going to get myself one of those separate container water bottles. So, uh,
Yeah, they're cute. And you also can just charge your water before you leave the house. Like if you have like a water bottle that you keep in the fridge, like a refillable bottle,
you
I
put
don't
the
know, put some crystals in your fridge. There's no harm in that.
Great. Can you give me some examples that people can, or of the crystals that people can use for, say, dealing with menstrual cramps?
So for menstrual cramps, one crystal that's been really helpful for myself and other people in the community is orange calcite. It's a very soft orange stone, surprise, and you can even find it in a palm stone or like an earth stone, small flat stone. And the reason the shape is important is because you can tuck that in your underwear and nobody will know it's there.
Interesting. Okay.
And it's very cool too. So that's always a nice little addition when you're using crystals.
Right, to reduce inflammation. And I mean, I would have just assumed that you lie down in bed and just place it on your over your uterus, but I never would have thought of wearing it in my underwear. That's really cool. Awesome.
Yep.
Okay.
Crystals on the go, bras and underwears. There's lots of space in those things.
I know. What about sadness or grief?
So for sadness, tears, and it looks like a little black node. So sometimes you can find it in matrix, which means like the nodes are on like kind of sedimentary rock like base. Or sometimes you can actually find them taken apart. So there's these little like black little bubbles. I don't know how to describe it. And they're slightly translucent. So when you hold them up to the light, that's how you can tell the difference between an Apache tear and a black onyx, for example. Black onyx is not translucent. Apache tear will have like a slight like glow to it when you hold it up to the light. And that's been really phenomenal. If you're interested, there is a folklore about the Apache tear and how there was like a woman crying over, warriors that were lost. So if you'd like some extra reading, there's some great stories about the folklore of that crystal.
Wow. And awesome. All right. And if I wanted to deal with anxiety specifically,
I also kind of gave this one away, but amethyst has always been my go-to for anxiety. It was like probably one of the first crystals I ever owned. I didn't even know it was for anxiety at the time. Later realized I had a lot of anxiety to deal with, and I was like, no wonder I have amethyst everywhere. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Like I said, there's layers to anxiety. Where is it coming from? And then you can kind of calibrate it that way. But amethyst has been really fantastic.
awesome. What about, this is my favorite, headaches?
Do you want me to say for headaches, or do you want to say what's for headaches?
The headaches, and then I may or may not add to it, but this was mind blowing to me because it works.
So, okay, with headaches, I look at the placement. So my headaches live around my eyes, around my eyebrows. So that's your third eye. So can I balance that? Is there something off balance there? At which case I would actually bring in an amethyst. Amethyst is a very versatile crystal as well. And I would rest that on my forehead. I would have to lay down for that. If there, again, it's like, where is the headache coming from? First of all, did I drink enough water? Have I eaten? Blah, 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 that sort of thing. Have I been out with people? Because sometimes when you're out with people, you're kind of grabbing onto a lot of extra energy. So that is why it's kind of living in your third eye. So did I not protect myself well when I left the house? At which point I would bring in a protection stone. This is where the diagnosis of what crystal to use where becomes very layered and very personal to your experience. Gabby, do you want to share your experience? Because I love it.
Okay.
And I didn't want to say it and spoil it.
Da, 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 da. Okay, so I have always suffered from migraines since I was a little girl. And my mom, when I was a kid, she was always anti-drugs, anti-medication, anti as much as possible. Everything in my family was always very natural. And so, but when I got older as a teen, I would almost go through a big bottle of either Tylenol, and eventually I switched to Advil. It was just debilitating, and I could not handle the pain. It was awful. And I tried sleeping through it. Nothing worked. So as I got older, I had to start looking at different options because those medications affect your organs. And anyway, not that long ago over the summer, I was with some colleagues and I had a migraine. I had tried everything. Even I did peppermint, I did lavender, I did everything that you could possibly think of. I had done Advil, I had done, nothing was taking it away. And sometimes when there's sinus headaches, nothing works, but it just felt different. And I knew what the root cause was of it. Whenever there's a really heavy client or heavy spirit coming through, I tend to get these migraines even before I encounter them. And I knew that nothing was going to work. So it wasn't. And a friend just said, just take a stick of selenite and put it on your forehead. And I thought, really? And she said, yeah. So I sat there and held the selenite, and it felt amazing because it was cool. But I mean, I've tried ice before. I've tried cold compresses and they didn't work. And a little bit, but not, the intensity wasn't gone. And within 10 minutes, no joke, my migraine was gone. And ever since, I have used it. Every time I get either headache or migraine, most of the time mine are migraines, and within 10 minutes, it's gone. And so now I live in heaven because I know that no matter what I get, just put that on and it is gone.
I love that. But that's also speaking to like the protection aspect, right? Like you were there, something kind of broke your barrier and was living in your psychic chakra and causing you this physical pain. And I mean, we know selenite is great at clearing and cleansing and all that sort of thing. You can even use selenite to like cleanse your body, right? Like of your aura, using like a wand in that way. So, I mean, there's nothing it can't do, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yep. Yep. That's my go-to now. I love selenite. Like I have so much selenite in my house and I had to actually separate it because sometimes it was so intense that I felt the vibration. I'm like, oh, okay, I've got to ease off on this. But
You have your working selenite, you have the selenite that's for migraines, and you have the selenite that's for everything else.
And I do not keep it beside my bed because otherwise they won't leave me alone. So any combination of crystals that can make them work even better or stronger. So you talked about before about amplifying crystals. So would you recommend, maybe not necessarily to a newbie, but if I wanted to amplify the power of a crystal, is there a go-to sort of combo?
The quartz family will amplify. So if you wanted to amplify love, compassion, you can use rose quartz with a rhodonite, with a green stone like that green moonstone we were speaking about. If you wanted to amplify grounding properties similar that I use the smoky quartz, like that's from the quartz family. It's going to ground, but also amplify. And if you have other grounding stones with it, they're all going to work together. They're all great friends. And then they're going to help amplify that. Citrine is going to amplify any abundance. Mm-hmm. So I use citrine with green aventurine and pyrite, and the citrine kind of takes all those, all that energy and amplifies it. And then amethyst, if you're looking to amplify your psychic abilities. And then, like I've been saying over and over, clear quartz to amplify anything. Anything.
Is there a better time of year to use crystals? Because I know that you do a lot of moon rituals and a lot of rituals in general. So would you recommend a time of year to do specific rituals, or does it really matter?
Yeah, I love doing rituals or working with crystals around the activity of the full moon, the new moon. I mean, we now know that there's super moons and eclipses and all these sorts of things that are even more amplified than your regular new moon and full moon. So that's always a great time. 3 days before or 3 days after, you should be like kind of in the energy. So don't worry about getting it on the exact night at the exact minute. Like it's going to be fine. And then any major shifts in your chart. So if you are familiar with your astrological chart, at bare minimum, you know when you were born. So when you were born, that's your Saturn return. And that's a really great time to do some work. It's a new year for your you. So it's a time of transition. Similar, you can go with the calendar year, whether that's like whether it's January 1st or you're following the Chinese New Year or the, kind of like pagan New Year of which is October 31st. Any of those kind of transitional periods that are important to you would be a great time to work with the crystals. And then again, just going off of like things that happen every year. So the equinoxes and the solstices. Those are very powerful times to be working with crystals.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay, and what things, before we kind of wrap this up, what things should buyers look out for when it comes to buying crystals? Because I've heard a lot of rumblings that there are fake crystals out there, and if you're a newbie, you don't know where these are being sourced from.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So if we want to talk about sourcing, follow the same values that you have with anything that you are purchasing. If you are looking for something that's sustainably sourced, ask who their suppliers are. Like for me, for example, when I source crystals from my suppliers, they're all based in Canada. Keeping in mind, crystals are from all over the world. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, obviously there are crystals that are just from Canada, but it just kind of depends on what your moral compass is telling you. And then in regards to like actually buying the crystal, just go for what you're drawn to. That is the gateway to your intuition, is like, ooh, that's pretty. Little do you know, you are being called to that. That crystal is calling to you for a reason. There's something in that crystal that you need. A fun little game I used to play before I became an encyclopedia of crystals and their properties was I would go into the metaphysical store and I would go to like the tumbled section or like whatever area of crystals, and I would see what crystal I liked. And then I would go and find, because usually they have like the little cards, right? And so then I would go and I'd be like, oh, this is a clear quartz. I wonder what this can do. And then I read it. And it was almost like a mini reading for myself. Like I have bought some crystals that I never would have sought out just by doing this. Because I'll be like, oh, I'm into this, but like, I don't know why. It's not my usual style. It's not like sparkly and like whatever. It's like more subdued. And then I read the card and I was like, damn it, this is why I needed this crystal. So yeah, that's always a really great idea. I'm thinking about how you feel when you hold it. Some people can feel crystal vibrations. If you can't feel it, don't worry. Not everybody can feel it, but does it make you happy when you hold it? Are you actually feeling vibrations? Then that could be something that you should consider taking home. And also being able to identify crystals that have been manipulated by humans. So that is, obviously we know when the shape has been manipulated, but sometimes the color has been manipulated. So there are some citrines and amethysts specifically that have been and smoky quartzes that have been heat treated. But it's really funny because smoky quartz, clear quartz, smoky quartz, and citrine are actually all the same crystal, just at different points in heating in the ground. So if you take it out of the ground and heat it, and it all of a sudden goes from a smoky quartz to a citrine, like it was actually the same crystal, just humans made the transition. So yeah, fun facts. Learned that later in life, but I like to share that as well. And then there are some crystals that have been dyed. There are some crystals that have been given an aura treatment. So that's that kind of not effervescent, that's bubbly, iridescent kind of glaze on it. And that again is just like heat treatment, and they're kind of like hinging other metals to it to give it this like rainbow look, which in itself has its own properties. So you either need to say, I like that, or I don't like that. And in which case just don't buy it if you can identify it. And then this one's my favorite tip. Do you feel like they are a trustworthy seller? Use your intuition. If they feel icky, then their values probably don't align with yours.
Right.
If you walk into a store and you're getting weird vibes, leave. Don't buy from there. They could have the most gorgeous crystals, but someone has curated those crystals with something in mind. Like when I go out and pick crystals to sell at my shop, I'm handpicking these for the ones that I'm attracted to. So if our values don't align, these crystals probably aren't for you, because I am picking them.
That's amazing. That is an awesome, awesome tip. Good. Thank you for that. Okay.
Of course.
So if I am a complete newbie at the crystal thing, which are my top 4 crystals that you would recommend?
This was the hardest question. So it's like picking a favorite child. So if I had to pick 4, I mean, I do have a starter kit that has 6, but I'll just say 4. Okay. Amethyst, so because that is for...
Forget the 4. Give me your 6.
You want my 6?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So clear quartz, duh. I don't need to speak about this anymore. Yes. And then black tourmaline.
Okay.
Over onyx, believe it or not. I don't know why. That's just what I chose. Sodalite for your communication. Amethyst for your psychic abilities. Labradorite for transformation.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that was a long list. And smoky quartz, if you would prefer that to a black tourmaline, just one of those 2.
Wow, that's a tough choice, but yeah, or both, or maybe all of the above,
or both, or get all of them. Okay, if we wanted to expand this a little bit further, and you're say a newbie, like an advanced newbie, get one for each chakra. So get something that is that kind of clear color, get something that's that purple color, blue, pink, or green, and then your orange/yellows, your deeper reds, and then your protections like your browns or blacks as well for grounding. And then you kind of covered all your bases.
Wonderful. Yay, that was awesome. Thank you so much. How do people contact you if they want to know more about crystals, or if they want to buy crystals from you?
Yeah. So if you want to learn more, you can reach out to me at Rorey Moon on Instagram. So that's ROREY Moon. You can also visit my website at roreymoon.com. There's a bunch of blogs on there about working with crystals and just some fun things to do. If you're really keen, send me a DM on Instagram and I can send you a link to my entire crystal directory. I have over... what is it now? I want to say like over 200 crystal property descriptions that I've kind of channeled or kind of experienced through my life. So as I find new crystals, I figure out what they're kind of doing for me or what I think they're doing. And then I put them in my directory. It's massive.
Okay, that's awesome. I love the power of crystals in the support system as well to help us with anything and everything, it seems, but I just love crystals, not just for the shiny properties.
Yeah, it's okay to ask for help from crystals, from people, from everything.
Yeah. Thank you again. Thank you for taking the time to do this, and I look forward to speaking soon.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.